Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Richard Skipper celebrates the best in entertainment. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. My show is all about celebrating. It's about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating artists, celebrating whatever we can find to celebrate in this crazy, crazy world that we're living in. And if without COVID and all the crazy things that we're living in, today, practically all forms of social media are down. Well, Mercury is still in retrograde, and I'm telling everybody, fasten your seatbelts. Think about where we are right now. When you think of Mercury retrograde, and I do put a lot of belief in this, think of this time as a time to think of those first two words of retrograde, R-E, reflect, restart, redesign. Just step back for a moment. And perhaps there's a reason why there's a collective pause right now in the world for all of us to step back and think about what Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, or any of the other social media platforms mean to us. You know, Facebook and all of these platforms should be an opportunity for all of us to come together instead of dividing us. And if this is your first time here, I want to thank you for being here. I hope if you have a great time today, and my hope is that you are going to have a great time because this is a show about hope, that you will subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates, and that you will not only celebrate my incredible guest today, but that you will take the time to celebrate the over 300 guests that are behind me, and hopefully the additional 300 people that are to come ahead. I want to tell you a little bit about this very special person that we are bringing up here today. Lee Farrar and I met because of Facebook, and we're going to talk in a moment about how we actually met. She may be someone, except for her friends that are watching today, you may not know who she is. My Facebook friends may have seen her popping up from time to time on Facebook, but she is someone who is very special to me. She is a true friend. She has reached out to me when I am feeling at my loneliest. I reach out to her when she is at her loneliness. We have only connected over the phone. We have never had a Zoom meeting. We have never had a FaceTime. We are actually seeing each other's faces for the first time today. Oh my gosh. I will say this, Jamie, you are sitting in the dark a little bit.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I am glad that you were here. We are going to celebrate you. As I say, my show is all about celebrating. And before we get into our history and your history, I want to ask you, what are you celebrating today? And I am so thrilled that you're here.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me here. I celebrate just every day because I wasn't supposed to live past 25 and I'm 34. I celebrate every day. Like, it's the best day in the world, even though it could be like I could be having the worst day in the world, and very few people will know that.
Well, I don't want to disagree with you, but I'm going to disagree with you. You are supposed to be here. You are supposed to be exactly where you are. Um, I'm reminded when 9/11 happened, I saw an interview where a woman was being interviewed on the Larry King show, and he said, "You happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time." And she said, "No, I was exactly where I was supposed to be." Um, that word suppose. I was at work doing what I do, providing for my family. That event was not supposed to happen. Those
Right.
planes were not supposed to fly into those buildings. But you are supposed to be here. So get rid of that thought. Last night, you and I spoke for a brief moment, and I
Yes.
asked you if you considered yourself a fatalist. Did you look up the word?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And
And
that's
okay. And what are your thoughts about being a fatalist?
I would have to definitely agree with you that I never thought of myself as a fatalist, but I definitely agree with you that like the things that were the things that have happened to me have literally come out of the blue, come out of nowhere, were completely unexpected and were, as it turned out, to be fate. So I believe in that.
Now, before we jump into our past, let's talk about what brought us together. Do you want to tell that story?
Um, well, I don't remember how I like became Facebook friends with you or why I became Facebook friends with you. I think because we had a lot of mutual friends in common, and you sounded like an interesting person that I'd like to get to know. But when you were interviewing Leslie Ann Warren for the 50th anniversary celebration of Cinderella, I sent you an email and I said, "Hey, look, this may or may not be a good idea, but I'm just going to go with it. You know, if I write her a couple of uh, paragraphs, would you give it to her?" And you said yes. And in doing so, that is one of the best gifts you have ever given me, because she has been a very close and personal friend for the last 7 years, as have you. And I never expected that to happen. And I'm going to cry.
I'm going to cry too.
I'm going to cry.
I will never forget the day you called me and you said, "Oh my God, she called me."
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it takes very little effort for all of us to say yes to someone when someone wants something. And I think that so many times in our lives, we don't respond to an email, or we don't take the effort to reach out to someone when there's something that somebody desires. It was up to Leslie. Leslie, I hope you're watching, as to whether or not she, chose to respond. She did respond.
She did respond.
Which
Yeah.
speaks to who she is. And she followed up with that. So thank you.
Yes.
And here we are. And 7 years later, you still have remained. And you both share a birthday.
And we both share a birthday. She's my birthday twin.
So let's talk a little bit about your story.
Okay.
Let's first of all go to your birth, and let's start there. And if you can tell everyone a little bit about who you are. I've got this great picture that I'm going to share with everyone. This is you as a little girl. Look how adorable you are, and you haven't changed a bit.
Well, so thank you.
If you can tell everyone a little bit about who this little girl is and was.
That little girl was a very positive, very loving child who happened to have grown up with cerebral palsy. Okay. That picture that you have is the last picture that I have of me standing up without like any assistance or mobility aids. That was prior to the first trauma that I've experienced, which is a whole nother book and a whole nother story. and I will not be touching on that as much today. But the one thing that I still do have in common with that very, very, very smiling, very skinny little girl is the positivity. I've never lost that. I was born with cerebral palsy. I had a 50-50 chance of survival. The doctors told my dad that he should be prepared to either lose his wife or lose his daughter or both of us. And my dad took us to a separate hospital. The doctors were able to treat my mom and get me out. I weighed 2 pounds, 2 ounces, and my dad called me Thumbelina for many, many, many years because I was so small. So small, in fact, that they had to buy me doll clothes. My parents had to go to Toys R Us up until I was about 6 months old and buy me doll clothes because I could not get into regular newborn clothes.
Now, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep going.
I had a lot of surgeries growing up, spent a lot of time in the hospital, but never was treated like any differently because of my disability. My parents made sure and instilled in me that I was just like everybody else. I was just different in the sense that it took me longer to do things than we would say like an able-bodied individual. It took me longer to do things, but I can still do them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to talk a little bit about that because, I mean, you grew up in a household where, God bless your parents, you know, who made you feel that everything was fine. It may take you a little bit longer to get dressed or to make it to the dinner table or any of those other things. Right. When did you first feel that there was something that was a little different from the other kids? Did that begin to happen when you started school?
Yes.
And when you started school, did you go to a regular school or did you go to a different school in order to deal with a quote unquote disability? Because I think the disability, this is me, comes from other people in terms of the way they handle it instead of you're living with it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. The way that society mishandles disability, the way that I feel, are not thought about, you know, as people, but just put into this box of here's everybody with a disability, here's this big box. Let's put everybody in it. But to answer your question, I went to a school for the disabled when I was in preschool, and that was my first exposure to other people like myself. Some who were worse off, some who were not, other types of disabilities, blindness, deafness, and whatever. But for the most part, when I started kindergarten, I was mainstreamed. That's what they call it. I was mainstreamed and placed into a classroom where I was the only disabled person there.
Now, when I will tell you, when I grew up in the South. I grew up in South Carolina. I'm a lot older than you are. But when I was in the fourth grade, two African-American students, one of them is still a friend of mine. Unfortunately, one passed away. But they were brought to our school as an experiment to see how they would acclimate themselves with other students. Was that what was going on with you as well, to see how you would acclimate with the other students and to see how they were going to acclimate with you?
Probably.
But what was that experience like for you?
I started to realize that I was different than the other kids in my neighborhood when I have a neighbor that I'm still very close with. When we grew up together, But he would play with me when we were kids for a couple of hours, and then he would go outside and ride his bike for a couple of hours with his friends while his mom babysat me. Then I had to learn to entertain myself when all I wanted to do was go ride bikes with Billy across the street, and realizing that I couldn't do that because I didn't have the leg strength to be able to. That's when I realized, oh, something's different. Oh, something's wrong with me. Not that was the mindset that I had then. I don't have that mindset now because I've learned to, cope with that. But growing up as a kid, you face the bullies and the people on the schoolyard, and you're called all these names because you just happen to be born with CP. But thankfully I had a lot of friends that protected me from the bullies on the schoolyard. And even though they went off and played with their friends, they would still come back and play with me. So I never felt left out for very long.
Now, full disclosure, I want to tell everyone that you are now writing a book.
I am.
The working title for the book is Roll On, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. You've shared your manuscript with me, and I want to tell you, I have cried through this story. I have been totally moved by this story. You have sworn me to secrecy with this story. I have made a promise to you that I will allow you to tell the story as you want to tell the story today.
Yes.
But one of the things that has amazed me is we're going to jump ahead to when you were 25,
Okay.
because a major pivotal thing happened. And as I'm reading this episode in the book, it amazes me how you were able to recall the details of that day. And it amazes me that that the vividness of describing that day. I have huge empathy. And as I'm reading this, it was almost as if I could feel what you were going through at that moment. And I want to talk about various certain circumstances.
Okay.
I want to ask, I'm going to jump ahead of your story for a moment.
Okay.
Randy and Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Have you kept in touch with them?
Yes, I've kept in touch with Randy. I have never met Sue. I've talked to her on the phone. But Randy and I are very close.
Okay.
Randy and I have been very close for these last 8 years now. 8 years. Can you believe that? I can't believe that. But Randy was the police officer at the scene that day who saved my life.
Now we're going to stop there. Everyone's going to go, Randy and Sue, who
Randy
are
who?
Sue? Now we're going to tell them what happened.
Okay.
So you were out. You went to McDonald's. You got a bite to eat, and then you left McDonald's and you're crossing the street, and you'll pick up the story.
Actually, I had just gotten home from a therapy session because I have PTSD. I had PTSD from previous trauma, and I had just gotten home. My neighbor was watching my dog, and I had just gotten home, and I said, hey, I'm going to run one more errand real quick. Just one more. I'll be right back in about 20, 30 minutes, I promise. Okay. Then I went down to the cross light to go to CVS to pick up prescriptions and various things. And I was crossing the street at the light. I had the right of way. And the driver did not see me. The driver of a semi-truck, not a car, not a truck, not a motorcycle, a semi-truck ran me over, did not see me, then dragged me on the pavement for 69 very painful, very conscious, very, very, very excruciating feet on the pavement. I was conscious the entire time. I did not lose consciousness, which is why I'm able to recall as much as I have been. And I blocked out at some point because I lost a lot of blood. But then I woke up in Randy's arms. Randy is the police officer who had retired from the force. He was just going to wash his car at the car wash directly across the street from where I was crossing the street. And he saw what was going to happen before it did. And he was like, oh, that truck's going to hit her. Please don't hit her. Please don't hit her. Oh, crap, you're going to hit her. You're going to hit her. She's going to die. So he's on the phone with Metro as I'm being hit. And then he runs to grab me in the middle of the street. And Sue, who is a different bystander, who is also in her car, runs to the driver and knocks on the truck and says, if you do not stop this truck, you are going to kill this woman. Stop now. She's in a wheelchair. She's on your girl. You're going to kill her. And the driver stopped. And Randy ran to me and cradled me in his arms. And I woke up in his arms without any idea of what happened, really.
I mean, you at first thought that you had died.
I thought that I had died.
You thought that you were in your father's arms, who had passed away, years before.
Yeah, because I felt my dad with me. I felt my dad with me, but I knew what was happening, and my first words were, where's the truck? What happened? Where's the truck? Am I dead? And Randy was like, no, you're not dead. But you are extremely badly injured. I'm going to need you to stay put. And he put his training to good use. Bless his heart. God bless him. I love you so much, Randy. I'm going to cry now. I did not expect to cry.
No, I'm going to cry with you, so go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're fine. But he put his training to good use, obviously. And all the years on the force helping people. And he kept me very calm and very still.
Now, also, while we're waiting for the ambulance to arrive, there was a bystander there.
Yes.
And she, if you want to mention what everyone who's watching, the absurdity of the world that we live in. So go ahead with this.
Yes. I don't know if this woman was mentally ill. I don't know if she was just having a bad day. But she said to Randy, she said, the lady looks like she's going to die. Can I watch her die? And I'm freaking out because I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to die. So I'm already starting to shake and freak out for as much as is possible. And Randy is trying to hush this woman up and say, don't tell her that. Shoot, go away. There's nothing to see here. Go. And she walked away. And then I looked at Randy and I said, am I going to die? And I kept saying, am I going to die? Am I going to die? I don't want to die. And he got me talking about school and my life, and he wanted to know everything about me until the ambulance got there.
So when the paramedics arrived, you got in the ambulance. You know, Sue Mitsuki is watching here, and she's one of my soulmates. And years ago, she's going to remember this. I passed out on an airplane, and I couldn't get in touch with Danny, my husband, and she's the first person I thought of when the paramedics they had to take me off the plane to call Sue Mitsuki. She'll get in touch with him. You also immediately handed them your phone. And who were the first two people, you talk about this in your manuscript, for them to call? And why did those two people come immediately to mind for you?
One was the neighbor who was watching Rufus, Jim. Rufus is
Your dog.
my service dog. And the other was my best friend since childhood, Sasha. And Sasha,
I love Sasha's response.
Sasha,
That's a true friend.
I called Sasha because I knew that she would be able to calm me down and reach my family. She would be able to get on Facebook for the important reasons of letting everybody that, that had to know. And she kept me very much alive. And she says to me when I told her I got hit by a really big truck, she goes, "You got hit by a what?" No, what? And she says, don't die on me, and you're the one that's kept my diabetes in check and everything. Don't die on me, don't you dare die on me. All of that. So she got me to sing various Disney songs, one of them being Part of Your World from the Little Mermaid, over and over again until I got to the ambulance or got to the hospital. And I miss her every single day. She died right after I got home from rehab in 2013.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you so much.
I mean, you quote in your book. I'm gonna read a quote, something here. Calling all angels, walk me through this one. Don't leave me alone. Calling all angels, we're trying, we're hoping, we're hurting, we're loving, we're crying, we're calling, cause we're not sure how this goes. Calling all angels, Jane Soberry.
Yeah.
And she's one of your angels. She's,
she's one of my angels now. Yes. And she was there with me that day. She was there with me every single day from the moment that I got off that. She got her butt to the hospital as soon as she possibly could.
Now, I want to ask you, I mean, you and I have talked about this several times, and, over the course of the last few years, we've talked about you coming and sitting and doing an interview. And over the last year and a half, of course, with COVID and the fact that I started doing this platform and everything, I'm glad that you're here.
Oh, thank you.
What is the message that you want people to get ultimately out of telling your story? I believe that everybody has a story to tell. And I think that your story is so much needed because it's not just the fact that you were born with cerebral palsy, that you were hit by this truck. You weren't just hit by a truck. You were pulled for quite a distance by this truck.
Yes, I was.
I was at the dentist office today and I was thinking about what your experience with your own situation at the dentist and so many different things that have happened to you and these life experiences that you have gone through over and over and over again. And these life lessons that you've gone through, what gets you through these things?
Hope, faith, family, a really, really, really tight support system, friends like yourself that just make me laugh and help me, just see through the darker moments in life, and I'm not going to say that every day is a good day because it's not. Some days are really, really hard, but it's about putting it into perspective. And the biggest thing that I have learned in the last 8 years, like as a burn survivor, I hate the term victim. I can't stand it.
Thank you.
When people say burn victim, I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. is never take anything for granted. Anything. Because like your life can change like this. I did not expect. All I expected to do that day was to go to CVS, pick up prescriptions, and pick up a tennis ball for my, at the time, 4-year-old service dog, Rufus, who is now 13. So he's an old boy now.
Yeah. Well, Rufus just is still with you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Yep.
wonderful. Well, I think of these moments that happen in our lives, on a dime, anything could possibly change. That day change, you happen to get a check, you mentioned this, and you're going to go out and you're going to treat Rufus to, a gift. And, and then that moment, any of us could walk out of our door any moment and the day could change. So many people today clicked on their Facebook and panic struck in, and it's not there for them.
One thing that I would say about that is get off of Facebook, get off of social media, get off of your television screens and your Netflixes and your whatever. Pick up a book, call a friend, talk to somebody you haven't talked to in a really long time, and realize that life doesn't revolve around social media. Because this generation, that's all they do. Everything's on Facebook, everything's online, everyone wants to talk about every aspect of their lives, which is great. In certain instances, I happen to go on Facebook to share stories about my life in hopefully a positive way. Sometimes, again, not. But get off social media. Get up, call a friend, read a book, and enjoy life, because life is beautiful and life is precious and life is amazing.
Well, I want to bring up, someone who is very important in your life, and I hope you don't mind. This was your father, because your father was a very special person in your life, and I know that every year on the anniversary of his passing and everything in June, you bring this up on Facebook and you acknowledge him and you celebrate him, and I
do.
I think that's so wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your father and what he instilled in you and the life lessons that he brought to you that helps you and moves you forward throughout your own life now.
Well, both of my parents. I don't want to cut my mom out, but my father instilled in me the aspect that I can do anything that I dream of. He was a big kid. He never really grew up in the sense of he had responsibilities and everything, but he would sit and watch cartoons with me, and when I was growing up, and he ignited this flame of creativity. He when I started to sing, he guided me through that. He didn't teach me how to do it, but he guided me to do it better at each time. But he would critique, but like he would never critique in a like mean way or anything. But he would critique and he would guide. But he was always the strong presence that was there in my life, and he was there in death as well. And I talk about that. There are some instances in the book where I am heavily sedated because I was in a lot of pain. So there's some instances in the book where I see him. And there's one instance in the book where during this, because I had to have a lot of skin grafts done. During the first skin grafting, I lost a lot of blood. And I saw him on this beautiful beach in heaven. And I titled the the chapter, the beaches of heaven, and I talk about, like this very vivid, it wasn't a dream, but an out of body kind of experience where we're on this beach in heaven, and I feel no pain whatsoever. I could walk. It's so amazing. And I told him, I said, I don't want to come back. Why would I come back to that? This paralyzed, broken body? Why would I come back to that? I don't want to come back to that.
I'll tell you why.
And he said the most amazing thing to me. He said, you won't understand this now, but you'll understand someday.
Mm-hmm.
And I already promised your mom that I wouldn't take you, but I wouldn't bring you home yet. Because my mom was freaking out when she first saw me and everything, and the family was kind of like, understandably, obviously, when they first saw me. And he told me, I can't explain everything to you right now, but I am here, I am with you, and like, you'll understand this someday, I promise. But I have to send you back now. Like, you have to go back. I'm sorry. I have to send you back now. And he's been with me throughout this entire journey.
Of course he has. I want to ask you, I mean, you got a lot of media coverage when this happened. Was there anything that the media got wrong about any of the information that was put out there?
No.
They got it all right.
They got it all right. Then I didn't get it like when it first happened, because we waited. They wanted to come in and interview me right away. They wanted to do all of that, and my mom put a stop to that and said, no, she's going to heal. She's been put through the ringer. She's going to heal. She'll come to you when she's ready. So when I was ready to do this, which was about 1.5 years later, I was ready to do this, and I asked Randy to do it with me. And he crossed the street with me hand in hand.
Wow.
Again. And that was the first time that I had crossed it. And that was the first time that I had told my story. And it felt very, very cathartic. And one of the reasons that I wanted to write the book, it didn't start off as a book. It started off as just having flashbacks and writing them down. Having horrific flashbacks, horrific nightmares, and writing them down to get them off of my chest. And then I realized...
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then I realized I was writing a book.
Have you always been a writer?
Yes. Ever since I was really, really... ever since I could write, I've been writing. I've been an avid writer, been an avid reader from a very early age. And I'll tell you a funny story. One time when I was in the 6th grade, I had to write a short story, and one of my teachers, my English teacher, said, she called my parents and she said, Jamie copied this out of a book, right? And my parents were like, no, she was busy working all week to the last minute. She didn't like what she was doing and she kept rewriting it to the last minute. And still to this day, I'm like working on this book, and it's in very rough draft right now. So I'm sorry to your listening audience, you can't pick it up at this moment. But I promise you it'll...
sworn me to secrecy. I think I'm the only one who's read this. Am I right?
You are. Yeah.
Has your mom read it?
She's read bits and pieces.
Okay, sorry, Mom. I'm the only one.
She's read bits and pieces, but
okay. So, but I mean, it's amazing. It's just amazing. What's your process like in terms of writing this? I am sure that going through this, it's probably, I mean, just like reading about the accident itself is so vividly in detail that it must be like living it all over again.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason I wrote it in first person, is because I wanted the reader to take this journey with me as I was experiencing it. So it was like reliving it all over again, but it's also, like I said, very cathartic. So once I have it on paper, I figure once I put it on paper, no matter how many times I delete it and say I don't like, this particular wording or whatever, once I put it on paper, it's done. It's over. It's someone else's to read now. It's someone else's to have now. And that's been the process. There have been people have asked me, because I've been working on this book for quite some time, quite a number of years, about 4 or 5, in fact, straight. And people have told me, been asking me, "Are you done yet?" And I'm like, No, not yet, because I've had to go back and really, really think and really, really prepare myself for chapters I haven't sent you, that because they're not finished and they're not done, but they're also really hard, like Sasha's death, eventual death. That was really hard for me to sit and write and then cry and then release. So it was a lot of processing, crying, feeling whatever emotion comes up in that moment, and then releasing it out into the world.
Well, do you have an outlet for getting your story out there? In other words, do you have a sounding board for someone to hear your stories once you write them?
Outside of family and therapy, no, I don't. Because, like I said, this is not just a short story. This is a really deep, personal thing. And a lot of people, I've got on social media and have told my story in various forms and outlets and support groups, burn survivor support groups, things like that. And I work with the city to stop what happened to me from happening to other people. And it happens every single day, because people don't watch where they're driving, and people have their phones and they're texting and they're doing 10 billion other things other than driving. And one thing that I want people to take away from this interview is it's not about you when you're driving. It's not about where you're going. It's not about how fast you have to get there. It's not about what you're doing. It's about everybody else around you.
But don't you find that most people nowadays, especially in today's world, everybody's in a hurry?
Yes.
Everybody has to get someplace very, very fast. And it's not only what's happening as far as speeding up to get someplace, it's the road rage that's going along with that. And people are quick to snap at somebody.
Right.
And we are living in a multitasking world, and people are distracted by a lot of things right now.
Yes.
I'm glad you said what you said earlier about today. And as I said, in my introduction, think of today with us having to get off of Facebook, reflect, rethink,
slow down.
Restart, maybe, wouldn't it be great? Just think about this. If moving forward, if every Monday Facebook shut down, and a lot of people are screaming at me right now.
I bet they are. I bet they are, but here's the thing. I spent 6 months not being able to really move because I'm semi-paralyzed. I spent 6 months just learning how to sit back up. Imagine the joy, when I finally could, by myself without any help. just the joy of sitting up, the joy of being able to get in my wheelchair. Yes, it's a wheelchair, but I'm able to get in my wheelchair and go and talk to people and go places and go get myself something to eat in the kitchen and stuff like that. So even on my worst days, nah.
Yeah.
Are you
Well,
kidding?
I have to ask you this because today is actually it's the feast day of St. Francis. It's normally the blessing of the animals. Where is Rufus right now?
He is sleeping.
Oh, is he anywhere nearby?
He is.
Can we see him?
Unfortunately, you can't because he is at the he's sleeping at the corner of my bed.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, come on, Rufus, I want to see you. You know, but God bless him. So what's next for you, Jamie? I mean, where do you want to see what's next as far as writing this book and getting this book out there? Have you set particular goals as far as the book is concerned?
Yes, I have. I have. Right now, I'm talking to publishers. If there are any publishers listening, hi, my name is Jamie. Please contact me. Because I have a really interesting story
That's
that
right,
I
you
think
do.
needs to be out there. But right now, I'm contacting agents and publishers. Some people have told me to self-publish. I'm getting a lot of different advice. But I really don't want to self-publish. I want this published. I want this published the correct way to have it. And I'm sorry, but as you can tell, I do have a speech impediment.
I can't tell that at all.
You can't tell that at all, right?
No.
But I'm trying to get the word out there, and thank you for giving me this platform to be able to
when
do
you're
that.
ready, you call me and I'll see what I can do to help you. And when the book is finished, although I never believe that a book is finished, I never do.
No.
I believe that once the book is in its form of a book, that it goes on to a life beyond that.
Yes, I do too.
Once that happens, I want you to come back and we're going to celebrate that happening.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get this into as many hands as possible. But I know a few people, book publishers out there. So I'll make a few phone calls and I will get them to watch this video as well.
From the bottom of my heart, you've already done enough. You don't have to do that. But from the bottom of my heart,
I know,
thank you.
but remember what I did before. So when I say I'll do something, I follow through with this.
I thank you very, very much. I think it's very important, and I want people to understand that I am not coming forward for. There's nothing that I can gain from this, but I think there's a lot of. The only thing that I can gain from this is closure, because, like I said, once it's done, and once it's processed and everything, and like you said, it goes out into the world and other people read it. If one person can get a hold of my book and say, well, gee, perhaps life isn't so bad. If one person, one child who happened to be a burn survivor could get a hold of my book and say, you know what? Yeah, this really sucks and this really hurts right now. But like, she was able to grow up, and I'm very grateful that I was burned at the age of 25 and not burned. Hold on a second, my battery's running low.
Don't leave me yet. Don't leave.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. Technical issue. But if one person can see this book and see and see life not through rose-colored glasses, but through a positive. There we go.
Okay.
There we go. But through a positive light. That life isn't so bad. That every day is beautiful. That even though on my worst days, and there are some where, things happen. There are days I'm stuck in bed and I can't move because I'm paralyzed, or semi-paralyzed. But I try not to let that get to me. Some days it does. Some days
Jamie,
it does.
you inspire me like nobody else I know. And I am so thrilled that you said yes to me when I said, when I asked you to do this show, you said, really? And I said, yes, I want you here. And, before we run out of time, I'm
Yes.
going to play, there used to be a show on TV. You may or may not remember it. It was called Inside the Actors Studio with
Yes.
James Lipton. Who is one of my heroes in the world. He ended the show with his own list of questions, and this is my homage to him. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask you some questions, and these are just some fun questions to get to know you a little bit better.
Alrighty.
When are you most content?
When I am with my family.
Okay. What is the best game that you play?
What is the best game that I play? Scrabble.
Okay. What is the most useful article of clothing that you have ever owned?
Oh my. Well, it's not clothing per se, but the most useful article of clothing that I have is this cooling towel that keeps me cool because I have very damaged sweat glands.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't sweat normally because of the injury. So summer is really, really fun in 115-degree heat.
I might add, you live in Las Vegas.
I live in Las Vegas, 115-degree heat.
Oh, wow.
So I have this really cool towel that helps me a great deal if I get overheated.
Okay. And what is, I love this question. What is the best revenge that you've ever taken on someone?
Oh my. The best revenge, and this is going to sound so cheesy, the best revenge that I've ever taken on someone is proving them wrong.
Good for you. Great answer. What was the best example of the existence of fate or providence in your life?
The best example of fate or providence in my life. The last 8 years being told that I would not survive. The doctors took one look at me and said, "Oh my goodness, how are you still alive?"
Wow.
And I in a very muffled voice through a lot of pain said, "I don't know."
Wow.
But I am. So that's the biggest moment that, like, I don't know, that's a big question because there's a lot of different answers to that. There's a lot of different ways that I can interpret that.
Wow. And what is the most irrational action that you've ever taken?
Oh my. I sometimes have a habit of being impulsive and doing something before I think about it, because I want something in that moment, and then it turns out, oh, I didn't really want that. Never mind. So the most irrational action that I've ever taken would probably be a lot of the relationships that I've been in.
And this is going to be a difficult question to ask you because of everything you've been through. But what is the strongest thing that you've ever done?
Survive.
Oh,
Survive with, well, let me rephrase that. Survive with a positive attitude and thrive with it, because anybody can survive. Anybody can be put in a circumstance and survive, but to thrive through it, to be able to put a smile on my face and thrive through that. That's the biggest takeaway.
Amen. Don't go anywhere. I want to thank everyone for being here today. It means the world to me. I'm sure I can speak for Jamie as well. You could have been anywhere else for the last hour. The fact that you chose to spend it with us, I don't take it for granted. So thank you for being here. Once again, if this is your first time here, my hope is that you will subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates. My goal is to celebrate people of all walks of life and their body of worth, as you can see here. So again, please subscribe. Hit the like button if you did indeed like today's show. Leave a comment underneath today's show. What that does is that increases the ranking of today's show. And then you can hit the share button and share this with your friends. This is a story that I think needs to be told. Share this with as many people as possible. Post it on your social media platforms. That is when you are able to do so. And tell your friends, and please let them know about Richard Skipper Celebrates. If you're not a subscriber, you can also go to richardskipper.com. That's my website. And you can sign up for my newsletter. It comes out every Monday morning at 10 a.m. And I promise you, you will not be spammed. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Jamie's already touched upon this earlier in the show. Pick up the phone and call a friend. Go to your Facebook friends list when you're able to do so again. If you're not able to get on Facebook friend list tonight, go to your database. Go to your phone list. And the second name that pops up, reach out with a phone call. Not an email, not a text message, but a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. As my dear friend David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. But I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure that you bring a skipper along. Now, Jamie, I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to give you the screen all to yourself. You've got the final word. Anything that you want to say about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon? Anything that we didn't talk about that you wish that we had? Or just any message that you want to put out to anyone who's watching right now? I thank you for being here. I love you so much.
I love you too, Richard.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the gifts that you have given to the world and that you're going to continue to give to the world. I know that you've got a bestseller that you're sitting on. So thank you. So the stage is all yours, Jamie.
Thank you so much. I love you. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to click on this video today. And I just want to leave you with a very short, and this is going to sound corny considering, I want to leave you with a short message that indeed nothing at all is impossible in this world. Everything that you dream of, everything that you want to happen can happen. Whether you happen to be in a wheelchair like me, or stuttered like I do, or you're completely able-bodied and able to do things, whether you have a lot of spoons today or very, very few, I want you to know that you matter in this world, and that you are important. And I thank you for everything. I want to thank Richard for having me and for being such a dear and loving friend. Please support him. If you would like to know anything about me, you are more than welcome to look me up on Facebook when you happen to be able to, under Jamie Lee Farrar, Farrar. And let's just have a conversation. Tell me about how everything is with you and what impact that you bring to the world. I thank you for listening. If there's any buddy that can share this and get my story out there, as far as, you know, getting this book published, that's a goal that I have right now. And again, I just thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.